Okay, good morning. My name's Ricky Patton. I'm from DataBasics. This is our webinar for Tuesday morning, the 10th of October 2017. And we'll be covering off features and functionality of Flight by Canto. Now then, I can just see people are logging in all over the place. There's usually a little delay at the beginning of a webinar as we get started. I've got this webinar on record, and as usual, we'll be putting up the webinar. You'll all get a link, so you'll be able to get the recording of the webinar tomorrow, and it'll also go up on our blog. Now, for some housekeeping, I'm just going to put in a message and ask some questions. Can you all hear me okay? So over in your GoToMeeting screen, you should see an area where you can put in some comments. I'm just showing you, can you hear me okay? If anybody is having a trouble hearing me, can you raise your hand? Otherwise, I'll assume that we're all good. Yes, okay, then get some people coming back in the questions area saying they could all hear me good. That's excellent. Thank you very much, Emma. Now then, I'm going to crack on. I can still see people jumping in. We want to go for around about, look, if I get done before 40 minutes, it'll be a miracle. This webinar was really came from about from our last webinar when we were looking at the new features of Flight. A lot of people wanted to know about existing features as well. They really wanted a very quick flyby to tell them all about wonderful things they could be doing in Flight, and that's why we've got a lot of existing users jumping into Flight, which is really great. So I've got a list here of about 14 things. That gives me about 2.5 minutes for each item, and that's why we've got to crack on. So let's go for it. Now then, usual etiquette, at any time ask a question. I might not answer it all the time. I do have to go to meeting questions area open, so I will see it come in there. I might round them up at the end, or I'll be getting to you. So ask your questions at any time you like. I'll answer them as we go along, and hopefully we'll have a couple of minutes of Q&A at the end. If you do want to take things offline with me, of course, you all know where to contact anybody at DataBasics. You can just go to our website, or you can just call us, or you can email us, ricky.patton@databasics.com. Okay, so let's start off getting into our portal here. So first things, this is a portal running out of the USA hosting space, Amazon S3 hosting space. A few people have asked about it from earlier this year. We can now provide hosting in Australia. There's actually 7 locations, but Sydney S3 storage is one of them. So as far as performance-wise, we don't notice a huge difference. Mainly the different storage areas is to do with governance issues. We're looking at one of the people that we've got currently using it. We are going to set up a trial for them so they can tell us whether they do really notice a difference. But for the records, this is running out of the AWS storage in the USA. Okay, so first we're going to go through a short bracket. We're going to cover off smart albums, previews, all about folders and albums, and then smart tags, which is really how you organize content, how you view content, how you can then add searchable tags to the content. And I'm going to go through here pretty quickly. Now then, up the top here, you can see that we've got our different smart albums here. So this one on the left, all files will show all of our different media, regardless of the file type. It'll be showing images, videos, documents, everything, right? So we've got some illustrations down here. If we scroll down, there's a video, another video down here. I think that's an audio file over there. There's a document here. So when you're in all files, you will see all of the content. You do get to set in your settings, which is your preferred default. So whenever you click on, say, your logo here, it'll take you back to your default view of Flight. you do get to set which view you want to see. At any time, you can go and look at images. So my first round of assets are images, so that just updates, but now you'll find that we don't have any of those videos down here or documents. We can go and just look at videos, so we've got a range of different videos showing here. We can go and look at our audio files. We can look at documents, right? So this happens automatically. Flight is basically looking at the type of file type that is coming into Flight, and it organizes assets accordingly. So images are around about a dozen different types of image, basically still media. Video is a big range of different moving media types, video, visual, audio, visual, obviously. Audio files are those only with audio capabilities, etc. So there's a whole gamut of different file types that are grouped this way. I'm going to jump in straight into showing how we treat those files differently, and this has to do with previews. So you can click on any asset you like here. I'm just clicking on an image, and it's going to preview it on screen. Some questions here. Can we change the size of the preview? See here, there's a full screen button up here. So you can go to full size preview. You can resize your browser window. I'm not going to do so in the presentation for purposes of delivering the content to you pretty quickly. And then when we look at the thumbnails here, just to touch this off, see how I've got this icon selected here, Masonry Grid. That means that it is showing the thumbnails proportional to the original asset. See how the different images are offset, the actual gaps between them. Now, if we go into a thumbnail view, they are shown in a square grid, but you will get cropping of broad images. So if we then go back, so if you look at this watch, if we then go back to our Masonry Grid, see we're now seeing the black space off the side of the watch. That's a relatively landscape sort of portrayed image. So there's the difference between thumbnail and Masonry Grid. Again, you get to set them into your settings as well. Now then, going on to videos. Videos, just click on any video here, which is going to be my favorite video, this one up here. And we will now play that video. This is using a web-optimized MP4 version of that video. There will be more about this in direct URLs. Very simple. And again, there is a resize button in the bottom right of this window here. So you can go to full screen mode if you like as well. For audio files, nothing really happens during a presentation because you can't hear my computer speak, but basically if I click on one, it'll play. So we do get to preview our audio files as well. There's no full screen version of an audio file. For our documents, this gets more interesting. Okay, so with documents, I'm going to do our model release form here. So documents are anything from a docx to a PDF file to an EPS file to a whole range of document type formats. When we click on them, and this is, I think, one of the main questions people are asking about, is see how there's this little icon in the middle of the screen. When we click on that, it'll open up a new tab, and then it will display this in the Flight inbuilt document viewer. So it's just loading that document here. So I now can do things like zoom out here. I can zoom in. I can move between different pages of this document. I can do searches. I can print to it. I can go to full screen. Whole range of different things that I can do with the page viewer. This works for both doc files, and also it works for PDF. So if I go to this one here, this is a relatively large PDF file here, and we go and open that. That will take a little while to load. It is, of course, loading the entire PDF, and there's a lot of images in here. You can see 30 pages here. That was pretty quick, so we can flick through this. As I said, we can find a nice graphic like this one here, and then we can zoom in on this, and we can zoom up pretty close to the resolution of the PDF file. So yes, a little bit different here when we get into previews for documents. Now, when we go into presentations over here and look at some of our PowerPoint presentations, which is what mainly happens with presentations, again, we can go to the document viewer, same trip here. It's going to load it in the browser, and when it's loaded, we can zoom in, we can go to different pages, zoom in. Now then, one of the things you might have noticed, this started on page 10. Flight does actually remember the last time you viewed a document. So yesterday I was looking at this and I would have been up to page 10, which is why it started at page 10 for me. Okay, so that's just covering off a few things to do with smart albums and previews. Okay, just clicking on my logo, going back to my default settings here. Next topics here is looking at folders and albums. Okay, so we've got folders and albums on the left-hand side. Did say this was going to cover off from the basics, going through to some more advanced stuff. So showing the locations and the genre folders here. Two distinctions here. We get a folder. You can see a folder icon. You then get an album. Content reside in an album. So when we start clicking on Adventure, or if we go into Documentary, we start to see the content that is loaded into those albums. When we click on, say, a folder up here, so say if I click on Locations, you will see the contents of that, which is the different folders. So I'm getting a folder for India, Canada, Singapore. That's an album. So you can see within this folder, we've got folders and albums, right? But we're not seeing any digital assets. So a folder is an organizational structure. You can have folders or albums within a folder. An album is where you put the stuff, the content, the digital assets, and within an album, you can only have digital assets. You cannot have other albums or folders. You can structure, you can have an asset in multiple different albums. It is cross-reference. It's not duplicated. It's not, you don't pay extra for storage or anything. And you can have either a flat scenario schema here. So we've got a single folder genre and then a whole lot of albums underneath it. Or you can have an embedded one here. So location has got a folder for Australia and then albums within it. I don't know if there's any real limit to how many folders you can have embedded. It's more like you're just going to run out of screen space. We don't suggest you go for more than a few. Now that at any time you can navigate via the display of the visual display. So I've just clicked on the genre folder. So I'm now seeing the albums. So I can now go into comedy by clicking on the album. And again, this is another setting. We do have users that are just not using the tree on the left at all. They have that contracted up. They don't have that showing. When they log in, they are really just seeing from the top level up here. They are then seeing their different folders. Their users drill into folders and then go into the albums. And that's the way they like to use Flight, so you can do that. Now, some settings that you can make on folders and albums. So let's go into the genre one here. So when I click on a folder like this, you can see that I can go to the down pointing arrow, the chevron here. And when I do so, I go into the metadata about this folder. So we can add a description here. We can add some text, searchable text. We can put in some comments here if we like to. We can also set permissions over here. This is a new feature that was added. Well, it's been in Flight for a while. It was expanded in the most recent release. But here is, you can basically restrict access so only particular users can see a folder or an album. So if we wanted to select that only staff can see this album, I would click on the Save button and that would take place. Now, I'm not going to do so because it would spoil my demo. Now then, what you can also do, and people ask a lot about this, we've currently got generic folders showing the folder icon. At any time, you can click the Edit button here and you can upload a photo to replace the thumbnail of a folder. And that way you get thumbnails on your folders. You can see, if I go into our genre one, all of the albums already have folders. Flight automatically takes on one of the images within an album to be the album cover. And if you want to change that in the future, you can do so. So if I want to make it this one here, we can go into the asset here and see this little icon up here, top left. We can set that as the album cover. So if you want to set an image to show on the album thumbnail, I'll do that right now. Yes. You click on the image, and above the preview, there's that icon there. All right, so when we go back up to genre, and we see space has now updated with a new thumbnail on it. So that's how you set the thumbnails for albums. If you want to set the thumbnail for a folder, you go to the metadata and you click the edit button there. Okay, great, lovely. Okay, so I did folders embedding. I'd covered off the thumbnails and I covered off the permissions. Fabulous. Back up to the top level. Keep cracking on. Smart tags. Smart tags was added earlier this year. What are smart tags? Very simple here. If I click on this image here and I click on our smart tags button here, you'll see that these two pieces of metadata, apple and fruit, they happened automatically. They were not manually entered. Basically, a smart tag are tags that Flight is adding to your content automatically on upload. So here, another one, graduation, human, people, person. You can see that's pretty good 4 pieces of metadata for this file here. It's basically metadata for free. Now then, that is using the Amazon recognition engine to do basically AI. It looks at the image and it creates some smart tags for you. This has currently on its rollout was only available for people with US storage, but we are now see that Amazon are rolling out recognition in Australia and should be available for our Australian hosted customers soon as well. Now with smart tags, you can just go up to your settings. So I've just gone back to the main page, gone to my avatar, pointed at settings, and you can see that smart tags is an option here. You get to turn smart tags on or off. When you turn them on, you set a confidence level. So we want to be 80% or better sure that that smart tag is relevant to the content. And we're going to create up to 10 tags. You get to set these settings. That's, I think, some defaults. There's some advice on the right-hand side here. You can go and look at the Amazon recognition engine. Recognition is spelt with a K, not a C, and get some more advice about that. Okay, so just checking back to everybody here. Okay, nobody's asked any questions so far. That's good. You just ask me questions as you go along. I should point out, you should see down below in your GoToWebinar window some handouts. These are some recent collateral that we've created. You might want to have a look at that, particularly the fact sheet. It's a point-by-point sort of, feature list of the Flight product. And then in the chat message, as I was getting ready, because I will be going off and showing some other links, I put into the chat message those links. Unfortunately, the chat message automatically takes out the carriage return, so it is a little bit garbled, but please do copy and grab that out there, or let me know if you want to know what those links are later on. Okay, moving straight along. Now we're going to get into the crop and resize tool. So this is a new feature from the most recent release. When I'm talking about the most recent release, we're referring to FCO. FCO is Rome, Italy. This was released in September. BCN was the release done in July. Remember, Canto roll out, it's a fast burn, agile development. They roll out releases pretty much 4 to 5 a year. I reckon they're up for, BCN was their 3rd, FCO is their 4th, so they'll probably get to another one this year. And everybody gets the features of the new releases as they're rolled out. So, Monday morning, because I usually do them over the weekend, you'll see your Flight has got a whole lot more features. Isn't that good? All right, okay, so now then, in the FCO release, the crop and resize tools were changed. So I'm going to talk about those crop and resize tools. So first of all, see on any image, I can just click the download button for download. Now then, my first question to everybody, do please confirm that you can now see my download file window. There are some changes made with the screen sharing with GoToWebinar. So please, everybody, tell me you can see a big image of that apple sitting on top of books, download file, .jpeg. Just let me know that you can all see that. Okay. All right. And you can see I'm now clicking on advanced options here. right? And then under advanced option, there's a pull down menu and I can choose crop or resize. Okay, so please everybody let me know that you can see those there. Just by putting in a question there, just tell me, yes, you can see that, okay. I'm going to do the resize tool first, mainly because crop has an expansion on the resize tool. Okay, what resize allows you to do is take the original image and resize it in some way. So there was previous versions of this in flight. Now I think it's been vastly improved here. And the first thing you'll see working left to right is that we've got the width and the height here and a little lock in the middle. So if I click the lock, that means that it's going to be resized proportionally. So if I want to resize that to 1000 pixels wide, hit the tab button, it'll also automatically go to 661 high. Okay, we can preview that and it will just, the image remains in full size on the window. I think if I get down to something really quite small, like this in preview, we will see some differences there. Okay, and we've now gone below the size of the preview in the window. Okay, go back to there. All right, so we can reset the scaling of the image. We can swap between a JPEG and a PNG. We can choose whether we want it 72, 300 DPI, and then we can hit the download button, and off it goes, download. Fabulous. Okay, now then, beside the resize function, you can also do crop. Crop does basically crop and resize. So when I choose crop, we basically reset to the beginning. We've got all of the different resize tools here, right? So we can reset the proportions, the format, JPEG, PNG, the resolution, but we can do some more things. So for a start, I can choose to zoom up this image like this. So this is just my level of magnification here, because what I want to do is I want to crop out that apple, right? So I want to just get that apple from here. Now then, when I drew this, right, I just basically clicked and drew, and that is putting my cropping box there, okay? So and see how it's got freeform selected. So currently the proportions are whatever they are going to be. Now, I want to have this in 4:3 proportions. So when I do that, it's going to automatically resize the box for me. So when I grab it now, you can see that it's maintaining this box in proportions. So I'm now fixed into a 4:3 proportions. You can see you can have 1:1, 3:4, 4:3, or 16:9. Basically, they're the most commonly used versions of an asset, typically, dictated by social media and web standards. So we can have all of those different sizes here. You can see it's automatically resetting my resolution over here, and then I hit the download button. Okay, and that will get me that cropped image also resized automatically. Okay, so that is the resize and the crop options. Okay, remember there are permissions allowing people to do that crop and resize. And the next topic, which is what we're going to jump into, portals. I've been wanting to get here quickly, as fast as possible. So we're down into 5 items through, so moving through at a pace here. Portals, we're going to spend a little bit of time talking about portals. And when I talk about you can control people's permissions to do things like crop, resize, download, share, that it all comes under the idea of portals. So let's just sit back and relax for a moment. What is a portal? Okay, when I'm looking at Flight like this, I have accessed this as an administrator, and I'm looking at what's called the main tenant, the main portal, meaning I'm seeing everything, and as an administrator, I've got total access to do everything. Now then, what you typically do with Flight is you also have consumer users, and consumer users are people doing search, retrieve, and download. And these are people you're going to target some of your content to. So very often what people want to do with Flight is they want to take a limited amount of their content, maybe only a couple of folders, and they want to then target that to some users, and they want to control what people can do with that functionality, and they also want to control very carefully the presentation of that content. Okay, So I'm jumping over here to an example of this. So this is what we call our one-click portal. It carries a whole lot of content information about flight, and you can see that it's roughly made up to look like a brand portal. So you can see we've got our branding up here. We've got the ability to just do a search if we want to search for things. But here we've got 5 areas of interest. So if I want to look at all of our product information, I click on product information and I go into our portal and I'm just looking at the content under product information. Great, really easy. Just go straight to what I want. If I want to have, just want to look at customer stories, I just click on customer stories and I go straight into customer stories and I'm seeing what I want. Real simple stuff. If we had a full brand management portal, you might have things like logos, lifestyle images, backdrops, box shots and things like that. And along with each area, you'd have other information such as brand guideline usage information. Along with that, as I said, this is really information about the flight product that we share with people. So this is an example of a portal. I'm going to show you 2 examples, so that's one. Another example, this is going back to our main demo site, and as an administrator, just to show you how this works, I can go to a portal. I can do that because I'm an administrator, basically so I can test things, right? So I want to go to this one called here, demo example locations. And when I go to there, you'll see another portal, and this is opening up on the content that we've currently got. And in this case, the scenario here was that somebody wanted to have their content or people guided to their content based upon locations, right? They had all of these different offices in Australia. So we've used our locations folder here and all of the albums in there. So if you want to go into the Brisbane office, you just click on Brisbane, you go straight into all of the content pertaining to the Brisbane office there, okay? You click back up on the logo here. We want to go to maybe our Melbourne office here, okay? We'll go straight to all of the content pertaining to our Melbourne office here, okay? So this shows you how we can both rebrand and we can create a custom landing page within Flight that is linked to a portal. I gave you 2 examples. This one here, which is all of the different locations. And I gave you another example over here, which is it's a product guide, could be a brand type of guide. So you can see how you use portals determines the type of target audience and the functionality you're getting from Flight. Okay, so how do you set that up? I hear you asking. Okay, up here at the avatar menu, go to settings, really simple. You can see here are our portals. So if I look at the demo example for those locations, I just click on it. There's some stuff up the top about describing it with some names and things. I've set it to never expire. Here, now this is the important stuff. Under edit, I can select what content. So I just want my location album to show. So say if you're setting up a brand management type of portal, you'd probably have a root level folder at the top level, and then you'd have albums within it for each one of the areas of brand management. So your folder would call brand management content, and then you'd have an album for logos, an album for box shots, an album for guidelines, etc. Okay, so that's how you choose what content goes there. You can then choose who can access it. So we could make this available to staff or partners. With our example here, it's set up to being accessible by all of the internal users. So you can choose whether it's private, which is this box up here, or you could make this public, which means it's publicly accessible. So the example of our one-click brand portal for all of the flight information, that's a public portal. Or you can make it private, so you can control who has access to it by then clicking on add group or add user. Okay, under configuration permissions, you then get to choose what people can do. So we've turned off most of all of the permissions here, so people can't download, they can't share the content, mainly because we put this portal on our website, we share it out, and we want it to remain fairly static. Okay, then a landing page. This is the new bit that's just come out. So you can choose a range of different landing pages here. So you can just use the ones on the left are just the standard type of interface, showing an album or a folder. Or if you want to have a custom one, this is where you have a landing page per se. You choose an image you want as the main image. So this is this underwater image you see happening there. You then get to choose which albums are going to display there. So this is where Robin set all of those different albums, the location albums. So if you're doing brand management, you put your logos, box shops, lifestyle images and guidelines, etc. albums up there. We choose how many wide, we want 4 wide or 5 wide or whatever. And of course you can put in a footer there, so when somebody's there, they can click on a reference and go to your website or something like that as well. Okay, so that's how this interface is created over here. This one works off our website and is publicly available. We have selected the albums that will appear here. Why you see an image appearing on the album is, as I've shown before when we were doing folders and albums, I've set an album cover for each one of these albums, and that's what shows here. And then when we click on them, Flight automatically takes you to that content. Really quite simple. Now then, I can see. Right, okay, so Emma's asked, what's the difference between portals or using albums and folders? Okay, so this interface here and controlling access through folders and albums, you can set up a folder, a portal to take people into the folders and albums. How you do that? Under settings, go to the demo example, go to the landing page. You can. These ones on the left, so say if you take them into the main library view, this one here, they would just go and see the albums or folders. So really, choosing a landing page or whether you want to have folders and albums, it's really up to you. It's your choice. It's got to do with why you're setting up that particular portal. Maybe the question is more of why do you use a portal as opposed to just giving access to somebody to the main tenant? The reason is because you want to control access. So say in ours, we only give them access to the content within the location folder. So we don't want them seeing everything. We don't want them having all ability like download, crop and resize. So we control that capability within the portal setting. So a portal is about aligning a targeted range of content, going to a choice list of consumers, users, with its own particular interface and navigation and its own functional capabilities. Okay, does that help, Emma? Please let me know. Okay. Right, good, thank you, great, lovely. Okay, so so that covered off a range of points there, creating, using portal, custom branding, landing pages for portals, etc. Okay, let's keep on going here. Got a range of stuff here. I'm going to get into some more of the complex items, and then we'll get into some of the easier ones later on. Digital rights management. So if we go to this image here, this totem image here, and we look at our digital rights management area. So digital rights management is used to control or correctly inform our users of the digital rights associated with some content. So there's some terms and conditions about the usage of this image, and in this case it's a website or a link. You can either have a link or you can have a block of text. There's a copyright notice. Emily Carr's the artist here, and we have chosen to apply a watermark to different portals. So this backs up into the previous item about portals. Also, within a portal, you can choose different watermarks to appear on your images if that's what your intended usage is. So how would this look like? Now then, first thing up, an administrator will never see any watermarks, okay? That's because by default, an administrator can see everything and they have full access to content. So I'm just logging back into my portal here. I'm going to change my user account into this one here. Okay, and I'm now logging in as a consumer. Okay, so just if you back up and remember the different types of users we've got. We've got administrators, and I can see most of you from knowing you, most of you use the product as a administrator, okay. You then get your contributors, people who can't go into settings, but people who can upload and manage content, okay. You then get your consumers. Consumers are basically people who can search, retrieve, consume. They can't change any of the content. They can't do any administration. So here I'm logging in as a consumer, and we've set up this consumer not to have access to the main tenant. They've got access to 3 different portals here, okay? So I'm going to go into the general content. So here is an example of targeting a group of users via different types of content via using a portal, okay? So I'm going into there. When I get into there, you'll see that we will get a limited amount of content, location, genre. We're getting a limited range of assets. Here is my totem pole here. And when I go and do a download now, we will see that will show with its watermark, okay? So there's the watermark, and that will be embedded into the image. You get to agree to terms and conditions. So download isn't enabled until they tick on agree to terms and conditions. And if they click on terms and conditions, you can just see it's going to open up a new page and take me to the link that I put in there, which was a link to the Copyright Agency. Okay, and as said, terms and conditions can either be a link or a block of text. If it was a block of text, the block of text pops up, right? So it basically tells them about terms and conditions, usage of the asset and things like that. Now, I needed to do that demonstration as a consumer to show you what the end effect is of using digital rights management. So getting back to logging in as an administrator, I just need to do this now because I'll go into settings and I'll show you that digital rights management appears here in my settings window. I can turn DRM on if I want to, don't have to have it on. And then within the settings, I upload various watermarks to be used. For an individual asset that I want to apply digital rights management, how I typically do it, you do it in bulk, but I'm going to do it for an individual asset. So if I wanted to do it for everything on the screen, I would just go here and select everything and then edit the information over here. I'm going to just go into this asset for the moment. You can see it's one of the metadata fields that I get to apply the terms and conditions as in this case, a link. The copyright statement, this is just text. And then I get to choose where I want the watermark. Okay, so that's a relatively complex one, just checking that everybody's good with that. So that's digital rights management, why and how, and what the end effect looks like. Okay, and let's get into direct URLs. So, okay, let's get back to my Apple image here. Direct URLs, one of the most exciting things that Canto has added to Flight. So you can see it down here in my metadata window. If I want to grab a preview of the image, I just copy this to clipboard. I could be going and using, I'm not here, I'm just opening up another tab, but I could be going into my website design tool, my CMS tool, and I could be placing that link in there to appear in WordPress or whatever CMS I'm using, and that link now displays. And what's really exciting is if you look up into my bar up the top here, you can see it's got an 800 at the end. If I want to change that to 200 pixels wide, I just change the number at the end and it displays 200 pixels wide. So if I want to place an image from Flight onto my web page, I just grab the direct URL, I paste that into my CMS tool, I set the width of the image automatically, and there you go, done. Okay, fabulous capability of Flight there. Now then, you can do that not only with images, but you can also do that with videos here as well. So if I just go down and look at a video and grab this one here and go down here to direct URLs, you can see you can grab a direct URL of a video. The best information about this comes from our blog. Our blog is now created entirely with direct URLs. If you want to get to our blog, simple, go to our website, databasics.com.au. On the top right, you can go into the blogs. When you go into the blogs, scroll down, you can search. There's a search bar there. I know that this is still appearing down here. It's one of the links that I put in the chat message. And I said this is Entre did this, so she took you through. For start, one of the great things is it doesn't matter what format the original file is. You could be taking a PSD or a camera raw file or whatever you like, and you just take the image, the preview image, you put it into your CMS, and it will display. You could also be using this in your social media, anywhere that you basically want to share it out on the web, okay? A little bit about resizing the image there. And then this is Entre showing you how a video can be placed, a little snatch of HTML there. And this is a video placed straight out of Flight. So this now plays on our blog. Our blog's created with WordPress. This could be any CMS tool that you like, okay? All right, so that's direct URLs, and 3 cheers for Canto by putting direct URLs in there. I think that's one of the most exciting things about Flight. Okay then, now then, next set, I know I'm sort of like, I did set a big challenge here, 14 items. Next ones are really simple. These were items that we sort of like, we polled some people and found out what they wanted to know about. Enhanced password items, so these are mainly things over here in settings. So over in settings, and in most sites that we're implementing Flight, we integrate it with your AD system, the system that when you get into work and boot up your machine, you log into and you get and automatically remembers your logins. That's what we're doing with most versions of Flight, but there is a full user management system within Flight, and we have password policies in here. So you just click on password policy here, and you can set this. This is standard sort of stuff that a security team would advise you on how best you set your password policy here. So that's how you set up your password policy there. Right. Right. Admin dashboard. This is a new feature. It just came out with the most recent release. It is really a compilation of a lot of what's happening in the settings over here, and it's for administrators only, and you get to have a quick view of all of the different parts of your screen that you want to have a look at. They're basically reports and other functionality from settings, and you can reorganize it. So I've got my latest messages up there. Maybe I want to put my activity feed at the top. I've got my top commented files over here, logins for the last few days. I want to have a look at the storage use. I want that appearing over there. So you can reorganize this graphically. Okay, and you can remove any ones. You can go to the original reports by using the ellipsis menu there, or you can refresh this information at any time. Okay, and so that's the admin dashboard, so only available to admin and off your avatar menu there. Right, collaboration. So let's go into here. Collaboration are comments here. So I've just gone to the comment field here. Remember, if you want to look at the full metadata, use the down pointing chevron there, and comments are appearing here. And you can see just before this webinar started, I sent a message to Jack. I wanted to know if this is the right image for the website. I could be a CMS designer needing to ask, you know, my supervisor, yeah, that's the right one. Great, now I know what it is. I can go and grab the preview image in the CMS, put it in there, total workflow. Of course, you can see that we've got a approval status running here, so I would only be looking at approved content anyway, but this collaboration allows me to just comment and just crowdsource with my team that I am actually going to the right content here. You can see that only comments that you've created, you can edit. I can't edit Jack's comments. If I was, say, a supervisor, somebody who is in charge of doing approvals, I can also add comments in here, not targeted to anyone. Okay, so I could be putting in a really, it's an audit trail comment in here. Only I will be able to edit that later on, but it is giving a trace of when I've added my stamp of approval to this image. Okay. Okay, then we're up to the last point here. Great, you've been a great audience. Do ask any more questions. The last question was about integrations here. So this is another link I just got to here by searching Canto Flight integrations. I have put the link into the window, into the chat window there. Now then, you can see we've got a whole lot of integrations. All of these sort of come out the box. The only one that you pay extra for is the InDesign one. It's an InDesign plugin. All of the rest come out of Flight automatically. So say if you want to use the MailChimp one, I think there's a blog on Canto's website with a link to get the MailChimp plugin. For the WordPress CMS integration, it's off the WordPress site. You just go into WordPress and look for Canto Flight and add the capability there. A lot of these integrations come, say if I want to share out an asset like this, you can see all of these different integrations with social media, with sharing capabilities are embedded into the product. And say with the other cloud storage products, say things like G Drive, Box and Dropbox, it's in my settings here. So if I want to be sucking up content from other cloud storage solutions like Dropbox, I can just set that up in my settings there. So now then, two things that I added here was under here. Good. Okay. So I've put them down as links into the there, and that will show you how the Chrome extension works. Fabulous. Okay then, folks. Any more questions? I see we've got a real full house here. We've got about just under 20 people online. You've all hung in right through to the end. I know this has been a big bash through the whole lot of features there. As said, I did remember to click the record button, so I will be sharing that out to everybody. You'll get an email with a link to that recording. Can't see any more questions coming in. That's great. You will pick up with anybody here in the team. Just call us or email somebody here at DataBasics if you've got any questions. Now then, between here and the end of the year, we do intend to have at least one more webinar, maybe two. We will probably run an official webinar on the BCN release over here. If Canto beat us to the punch and come out with another release of Flight, we might roll a webinar and look at recent features of several different releases. We will also, our next project that we're working on, look for a blog update. So just on the blog over here, people ask us this. When you go to our blog up here, you can subscribe, right? So you can subscribe to the information bulletin, and that will give you any of the blog updates. Our next blog update is going to be all about setting up a brand content portal in Flight, and we're going to do an extensive example of that. We're creating a whole lot of our own branding images here. You can see Robin's been ploughing away at that, so we've of course got to create our own content. So if we just scroll down here, we're going to produce you the great brand example here. We will be putting together a full portal and explaining step by step how that's been done, because we think a lot of people will be very interested in that. Okay, thanks a lot. Thank you again for attending the webinar. You've been a great audience. You do reach out to us if you need any more information. I'll now be closing the webinar. Thank you very much. Bye.